Hello, everyone. I am Major Gina Sorter, and I am joined by Chief Master Sergeant Heather Stanfield to brief you on system and functional community training for AFIPPS. Slide 2. This brief will give you an overview and update on AFIPPS development and rollout strategy, explain the strategy, and plan for delivery of both system and functional community training, and then provide you with some resources and contact information at the end. But before we begin, we'd like to introduce ourselves and give some background on what we do and how we fit in with training. Slide 3. As I mentioned, my name is Major Sorter, and I am a member of the AFIPPS Organizational Change Management and Training Team. My main role is to provide Functional Management Office support to the Program Management Office Training Lead and System Integrator, and act as the liaison to the functional and business community on system training concerns.
And I am Chief Master Sergeant Heather Stanfield. I serve as the Personnel Career Field Manager and as a subject matter expert for the Personnel Career Field as it relates to organizing, training, and equipping. As a Career Field Manager, I develop and manage training plans and programs for the Personnel Career Field. In addition, I evaluate training effectiveness and ensure the career field is responsive to current and future needs of the Air Force. Slide 4. Before we get into the details of training, we want to answer the question, what is AFIPPS and why is it important? AFIPPS is a singular enterprise system that will integrate personnel and pay processes for members of the total force by streamlining human resources and financial management processes. However, it's more than just a system. It's a solution to outdated personnel and pay processes that cause thousands of pay discrepancies. Slide 5. This shows why AFIPPS is needed and displays many challenges airmen face in today's purse pay environment. The Air Force's accuracy and timeliness of pay averages around 94.7% in a 45-day window and is below the DoD threshold set at 98%. The Air Force is faced with resolving between 50,000 to 60,000 pay problems annually. These are analyzed on a monthly basis, and between 3,000 to 4,000 pay cases are open 45 days or longer. That means pay will be incorrect for those airmen for 3 pay cycles. In addition, because of communication challenges between the Defense Joint Military Pay System, DJMS, and Military Personnel Delivery System, MILPDS, first pay members must perform lots of manual work. Slide 6. AFIPPS will modernize HR technology and simplify processes, resolving these errors we just mentioned. But before, and even after AFIPPS is rolled out, system and functional training will need to be conducted. Slide 7. On 10 October 2019, Air Force senior leadership agreed to roll out AFIPPS in 2 phases. Barring COVID-19 related events and Space Force priorities, AFIPPS account creation is on track to be delivered in January 2021, where members will be able to verify key personnel data and identify discrepancies. In January 2022, AFIPPS is to be fully deployed, and airmen will be able to initiate pay transactions and requests, which will flow to HR specialists for approval. Leave requests will flow to the absence management module, and most importantly, our airmen will be paid more timely and accurately. This is important because the development of training is dependent on the development of the system. The focus of the train-the-trainer courses, explained later in this presentation, will be in preparation for the payroll delivery phase in 2022. Slide 8. This slide provides a timeline of key program milestones for AFIPPS with highlights for system training and testing. Back in January 2019, the Program Management Office, in conjunction with Accenture Federal Services, AFS, began system development and will continue system development through August 2020. With the anticipation of system development completion in August 2020, training materials are to be completed and delivered by September 2020, prior to the initial account creation in January of 2021. I'd also like to highlight the initial operation and testing evaluation, referred to as IOT&E. IOT&E tests the design of the system and the Air Force's ability to use the system. For example, will the system work? Is it reliable and technologically compatible? This test activity is the one activity where the Air Force test community will partner with airmen who are familiar with the system. The test community will observe the airmen working in AFIPPS and report any impediments with it. It will focus primarily on system capability and ease of use on airmen's proficiency of the system. This testing is important because the training team will be responsible for training a group of airmen to participate in this testing. As you can see, IOT&E begins in April, and below the timeline, the yellow boxes show that system training will overlap with testing. Between January of 2021 to October of 2021, with the testers represent a group that will participate in IOT&E testing. And finally, the purple boxes represent functional and sustainment training. Slide 9.
AFIPPS training team is using a three-tiered approach to tackle the training needs for AFIPPS. There's preparatory base level training that is the responsibility of the A1 FM community, AFIPPS system training, which is owned by the Functional Management Office, Project Management Office, and Accenture Federal Services. And finally, there is sustainment training owned by A1 and the Air Education and Training Command. Today, I'll be focusing on the middle tier, system training, and Chief Stanfield's view on preparatory base level training and sustainment training, also referred to as functional community training. When we say system training, we are referring to the training that will equip the personnel and pay members with the knowledge they need to use the system. For example, system training will show first pay members how to process a reenlistment bonus in AFIPPS. The training team is using a train-the-trainer approach to train all 25,000 plus first pay members that work in mill pay. This means that AFS will train 2,000 HR and FM members, including payroll operations staff, as train-the-trainers, who will then train the rest of the first pay community. All training content and materials are being developed concurrently with AFIPPS development, and I'll get into that more as we continue. Slide 10. AFS, Accenture Federal Services, is in charge of developing and delivering system training, which includes training for self-service users, HR specialists, approval authorities such as supervisors and commanders, HR super users or system administration, who are those given special rights to manually input pay-affecting transactions. These individuals will reside at AFPC, ARPC, NGB, and DFAS-OL. Payroll execution specialists, which includes payroll operations, and finally, finance personnel supporting AFIPPS. And as we mentioned, we will also identify and train a small group of the 2,000 train-the-trainers to participate in IOT&E. Slide 11. The training team is using various training methods to support initial training and knowledge retention. These include classroom training, some web-based courses, videos, and a hands-on simulated training environment to work real-life scenarios. We will be developing software user manuals, personnel service delivery guides, and job aids, which will be designed as quick references for certain processes that are simpler in nature. Using these various methods will enable our ability to reach a large audience and address different training needs and environments. Slide 12. The train-the-trainer approach is the primary strategy for training the first pay specialist and eventually the total force. AFS will train up to 250 people in the initial train-the-trainer course to support IOT&E testing. There will be multiple classes, and we're expecting the first class to begin mid-January 2021, with the last class ending February of 2021. Those classes will be 2 to 3 days and held at the AFS San Antonio offices. AFS will also be conducting a separate payroll operations training class for members who will be identified from DFAS to become Air Force assets and process payroll. We expect to have 2 phases of payroll classes. One will be to prepare participants for the IOT&E testing event, and the other phase will be to prepare members for delivery of payroll in 2022. These classes will be a bit longer, lasting approximately 3 to 4 days, and the location is TBD at this time. It may be best and more cost-effective to send trainers to DFAS Indianapolis to conduct payroll operating location training, rather than have those members travel to San Antonio. But we are still working with everyone in the functional community to include all the components to proportionally represent the population and deliver training in the most effective way. Slide 13. After the initial training group of 250, AFS will provide training for 1,750 additional personnel as train-the-trainers. These students will train the remaining personnelists and finance members prior to the January 2022 AFIPPS Go Live date. Classes for this group will begin after the completion of the initial 250 train-the-trainers and are expected to start February 2021, with the last class held in September of 2021. Class duration will be approximately 2 to 3 days, and we are still considering different options for how we will deliver these courses. Now I'm going to turn it over to Chief Stanfield to brief you on functional community training. Slide 14.
Thanks, Major Sorter. I have looked closely, and continue to do so, with the Financial Management 6FO Career Field Manager, Chief Master Sergeant Kendall Briscoe, as well as the Guard and Reserve A1 3FO Chiefs, Kelly Kruger and Nefer Edwards, to develop a training plan that ensures the A1 and FM functional communities are prepared for our new AFIPPS environment. As Major Sorter mentioned, system training includes all knowledge relating to how to execute military pay functions in the system. Functional training consists of educating the A1 community on the knowledge of military pay, such as what is basic allowance for subsistence, what are the required forms to complete a process, and who is the required approval authority. Functional training will not require the knowledge of understanding of DJMS or DMO. In addition, the A1 community will provide functional training to the finance community on how to utilize MilPDS, since they will need to understand how to operate the system prior to attending AFS system training. I've been primarily working on a training plan for functional community training, and I want to start with what the training plan will consist of and what we've done thus far. We still have a lot of work left to do, but as you saw in the timeline presented, our goal is to have all this work done by the 1st of July, 2020. As we have mentioned, training development and delivery is dependent on system development. Therefore, this training plan is still very high level, and details are to come as development continues. For the last year, I've been working with Chief Briscoe and the AFIPPS Business Process Alignment team to identify all of the mill pay tasks that would be performed by the A1 community and where or at what level they should be performed. Example, base, centralized location, etc. When we compared those tasks with the existing 6FO X1 Finance, Career Field, Education, and Training Plan, and developed a master training plan. This master training plan includes proficiency levels and task-associated timelines. If you are familiar with a current CFETP, you are familiar with the proficiency code key, which identifies task performance levels, task knowledge levels, and subject knowledge levels. To identify the proficiency levels for the new training plan, we have assigned the current 6FO X1 CFETP proficiencies for the identified A1 future-owned mill pay tasks, resulting in the A1 airman being trained to the same proficiency level as that of an FM airman on a related mill pay task. In addition to this, we have developed an associated timeline that shows when a task should be trained. Finally, we We have broken down the military pay tasks into Air Force IMP 797's Job Qualification Standard Continuation Sheet by specific tasks, examples, military pay, entitlements, allowances, etc. For example, the 797 for military pay lists the same military pay tasks the A1 community will need to know that are listed under the military pay heading in the 6FO-X1 CFETP, such as how to interpret a leave and earning statement. We also understand some processes may exclusively be at the AFPC level, and so that 797 may not be applicable to base level airmen, and we could have some 797s that could overlap. All of this will be determined as development concludes and roles and responsibilities are further defined. In addition, the 797s will be an effective way to track the delivery of training. As we near system development completion, a commander support staff, trusted agent, and certifier and commander training plan will be developed to go along with the training plan. Slide 15. A lot of the materials that we envision the team utilizing at every level are already established and built via the FM community. We will just need to modify the material to match our intent, and as more comes from the AFIPPS system developers, we will incorporate that material. The materials I'm referring to include training videos and scenarios produced by the FM Resource Training Center, RTC, based out of Maxwell. The RTC addresses work center and training gaps and provides training to airmen. They have a lot of information that can be modified and utilized for AFIPPS functional training, such as 30-minute video segments that break down how to interpret an LES, as well as no-pay training scenarios. In addition to that, the FM community has developed over 20 qualification training packages, which are used at the unit level to aid in developing qualifications for certain positions or programs. These packages include lesson plans and audiovisual aids that our finance airmen are already familiar with. They also have currently 39 computer-based trainings on the ADLS Gateway that provide a great process overview of various military pay programs and processes, such as basic allowance for housing and reserve family separation allowance. These CBTs also explain the source document required and what to look for on those documents. Please keep in mind that these materials are built for the current mil-pay environment. Therefore, they will require on-spot modification, meaning we will need to exclude any outdated processes, such as DMO and DJMS, and tie in AFIPPS processes when available. And finally, once PERS pay members receive system training, they will have to incorporate those system processes into the functional training environment to show how the functional and system training complement each other. Slide 16.
The AFIPPS team is committed to continually bring you current and relevant information. Please look at some of the communications that have gone out recently in 2020 regarding AFIPPS. These include the newest AFIPPS reenlistment bonus video posted to our AFIPPS YouTube playlist on 21 April. The spring AFIPPS e-newsletter posted on MyPERS on 20 April. A COVID-19 update message that was sent out via MyPERS on 10 April. And our last webcast on AFIPPS data cleansing posted on 4 March, which can also be found on our YouTube playlist. Also, be on the lookout for our next message, which will also be on AFIPPS training and is anticipated to be sent out through MyPERS by the end of May. Slide 17. For more information on AFIPPS, there are several websites you can visit to get the latest news and educational materials. These links are also provided in the notes section of this video. For any training or AFIPPS-related questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to reach out to the AFIPPS Organizational Change Management org box. There, they'll provide you with a resolution or point you in the right direction. Thank you for watching this brief, and I hope this presentation provided you with a good understanding of the way forward for AFIPPS training. Wow.